So in the previous WhatsApp posting, we had stopped at your book page number 112, where Klausner along with his friend Dr. Scott had gone to the park to carry out the experiment with a bigger tree. And while hitting the trunk of that beech tree with an axe, in the first experiment, Klausner had heard a horrible, terrible, metallic, prolonged sound, and he had called up Dr. Scott to be a witness to his experiment and hear that sound. So, they had carried out the experiment together, but unfortunately, when Klausner had hit the trunk of the beech tree with the axe for the second time, a huge branch of that tree had broken and fallen on the machine and crushed the machine. And Klausner and Dr. Scott had barely been able to save their lives by running away at the last moment. However, Klausner was eager to know if Dr. Scott had heard any sound. But Dr. Scott said that he did not hear any sound because the moment he saw the branch falling, he had taken off the earphones and had run to safety. So today we will start with page 15 of the story, which is page 113 of your book. The story is continuing in that park only, the conversation between Klausner and Dr. Scott. What did it sound like? Klausner leaned forward slightly, staring hard at the doctor. Exactly what did it sound like? Klausner went on insisting the doctor to tell him what exactly was the sound that the doctor had heard in his earphones when he had hit the trunk of the tree with the axe. "Oh hell," the doctor said, "I really don't know." The doctor said, "Come on, don't ask me the same question again and again. I don't know what sound I had heard because I had taken off the earphones. I was more interested in getting out of the way. I was more interested to run away and to save my life and not get crushed under the falling branches of that tree. Let's leave it. Leave whatever has happened. Let us forget about it." Dr. Scott, what did it sound like? You see, these words are in italics, meaning the voice of Klausner is rising. He is getting irritated and angry. He wants an answer from the doctor. "Dr. Scott, what was the sound that you heard?" "For God's sake, how could I tell what with half the tree falling on me and having to run for my life?" Doctor said, "For God's sake, stop asking this question. Half of the tree was falling on me. I was running to save my life. How could I hear any sound?" The doctor certainly seemed nervous. You know, the doctor was nervous because, first of all, he has just escaped from a narrow death. And secondly, he was nervous looking at the anger and irritation of his friend Klausner. Klausner had sensed it now. Klausner was also slowly realizing that it was useless asking the doctor any question because the doctor probably had heard nothing. He stood quite still, staring at the doctor, and for fully half a minute he didn't speak. Klausner was continuously looking at the doctor. He was looking at the face of the doctor for almost 30 seconds, and in these 30 seconds, Klausner did not utter a word. The doctor moved his feet, shrugged his shoulders, and half turned to go. "Well," he said, "we would better get back." The doctor moved his feet, shrugged his shoulders, giving the impression that he was turning to go. And he also told Klausner, we better leave the park and go back. Look, said the little man, and now his smooth white face became suddenly suffused with color. Look, he said, you stitch this up. The little man is Klausner. He was looking pale till now, but suddenly color returned to his face. The normal color returned to his face, and he told the doctor again something very strange. He told the doctor, stitch up that cut that is made on the trunk of the beech tree. He pointed to the last gash that the axe had made in the tree trunk. You stitch this up quickly. Klausner pointed to the cut that his last axe blow had made on the trunk of the beech tree, and he said, stitch this up as you stitch the cut on a human body. Don't be silly, the doctor said. The doctor obviously was shocked and surprised. He had stitched human beings. He had never stitched a tree. So he said, don't talk nonsense. You do as I say, stitch it up. Again, Klausner was irritated. Do as I tell you, stitch up the cut on the trunk of the tree. Klausner was gripping the axe handle, and he spoke softly in a curious, almost a threatening tone. Look at the posture of Klausner. He was holding the axe. He was looking at the doctor, and he was speaking in a threatening tone, as if to say, you don't listen to me, you don't stitch the cut, I probably will give you a blow with this axe. Don't be silly, the doctor said. I can't stitch through wood. Come on, let's get back. Still, the doctor stuck to his stand. He said, don't talk nonsense. Don't be foolish. How can I stitch wood? It can never be done. Stop talking nonsense. Come on, let us go back to the house. So you can't stitch through wood? Klausner said, that means you cannot stitch the wood? No, of course not. Obviously, the doctor said, no, I cannot. Have you got any iodine in your bag? Klausner asked the doctor, have you got any iodine in your bag? Imagine, just like you use Dettol nowadays to stop the bleeding of a cut, iodine was used in those days to stop the bleeding. Klausner meant to say, if you have iodine, pour the iodine into the cut of the trunk of the tree. What if I have? The doctor said, what will you do with iodine if I have it? Then paint the cut with iodine. It will sting, but that can't be helped. If you have got iodine, doctor, pour some iodine into the cut of the tree. Yes, when you put raw Dettol into the cut, it gives you a stinging sensation. The same sting will be felt by the tree also, but it can't be helped. The cut has to be cured. Now look, the doctor said, and again he turned as if to go. Let's not be ridiculous. Let's get back to the house, and then the doctor said, now look here, don't talk nonsense. The doctor turned to go. Let us not be foolish. Let us go back home. Paint the cut with iodine. You will notice the last sentence of the page again is in italics. That means Klausner has raised his voice. He is talking in an irritated, angry tone, in a threatening tone to the doctor. The doctor hesitated. The doctor was hesitant. He knew what was the request. He knew that the request was basically foolish, but at the same time, he could not ignore the irritation and anger and the threatening tone of Klausner. He saw Klausner's hands tightening on the handle of the axe. Again, Klausner was tightening his hold or grip on the axe handle as if he would give the doctor a blow if he did not listen. He decided that his only alternative was to run away fast, and he certainly wasn't going to do that. The only option that the doctor had was to run away from the park, to to run away from Klausner. But his dignity, his self-respect prevented him from doing so. Why should he run away when he has not done anything wrong? Why should he run away when the request was so foolish and ridiculous? All right, he said, I will paint it with iodine. He decided to please Klausner by following whatever he was telling him to do. And the doctor realized that this was the best option. Okay, I will pour iodine into the cut. He got his black bag, which was lying on the grass about 10 yards away, opened it and took out a bottle of iodine and some cotton wool. So he went to his bag, which was lying 10 yards away, opened his medical bag, took out the iodine bottle, took out some cotton wool. He went up to the tree trunk, uncorked the bottle, tipped some of the iodine onto the cotton wool, bent down and began to dab it into the cut. So he went near the tree trunk, opened the lid or the cap of the iodine bottle, poured some of the iodine onto the cotton wool, and with the cotton wool, he started dabbing on the cut made on the trunk of the beech tree by the axe. He kept one eye on Klausner, who was standing motionless with the axe in his hands, watching him. With one eye, he was concentrating on what he was doing. With the other eye, from the corner, the doctor was keeping an eye on Klausner. Klausner was standing there without any movement, holding the handle of the axe. And Klausner was watching what the doctor was doing, making sure he was doing exactly as he was told. Make sure you get it right in. Klausner said, my dear doctor, make sure that the iodine sips into the cut. Yes, the doctor said. Now, do the other one, the one just above it. The doctor did as he was told. Remember, Klausner had hit the trunk twice with the axe. Once when he was alone in the morning, and second time was with the doctor. So he instructed or ordered the doctor to pour iodine into the first cut also, which he had made in the morning, and the doctor obliged. There you are, he said, it is done. The doctor said, okay, Klausner, whatever you had told me to do, it is done. He straightened up and surveyed his work in a very serious manner. That should do nicely. The doctor got up, stood straight, surveyed and looked at what he had done, meaning he had poured iodine into the cut, and he said, I think I have done my work properly. This will do. This will heal the cut. Klausner came closer and gravely examined the two wounds. Klausner came closer to the tree trunk. He seriously looked at the two cuts, making sure that enough iodine had been poured. Yes, he said, nodding his huge head slowly up and down. Yes, that will do nicely. He stepped back a pace. You will come and look at them again tomorrow? For the time being, Klausner was satisfied with what the doctor had done. He said, yes, you have done exactly as I had told you to do. And then he took a step back away from the trunk and said, tomorrow you will be coming to the park and you will examine the cuts. Meaning, if they have not yet healed or cured, you will have to pour more iodine. So just as a doctor keeps an eye on a patient on a regular basis, Dr. Scott was... You will edit? Dr. Scott was supposed to keep an eye on the tree trunk or the cut regularly till it completely healed. Oh yes, the doctor said, of course. The doctor said, yes, of course, I will keep an eye on the cut. Don't worry about that. And put some more iodine on, if necessary, yes. Klausner said, if required, you will pour some more iodine into the cut. The doctor said, yes, if it is required, I will do it. As I was telling you, the doctor was humoring Klausner, trying to please Klausner because he knew that this man was crazy, eccentric, mad. So better listen to whatever he was telling to do, because even if the order or the threat was foolish or silly or ridiculous, it was not the time to oppose Klausner. Thank you, doctor, Klausner said, and he nodded his head again, and he dropped the axe, and all at once he smiled a wild, excited smile, and quickly the doctor went over to him, and gently he took him by the arm, and he said, come on, we must go now. Imagine, the moment Klausner was satisfied with what the doctor had done, he thanked the doctor, happy whatever the doctor had done was okay, and he quickly went, dropped the axe, gave a sweet, friendly smile. He was wildly excited, went near the doctor, shook hands with the doctor, and taking his arm, he said, let us go back now. And suddenly they were walking away, the two of them, walking silently, rather hurriedly across the park, over the road, back to the house. After this, the two friends, holding each other's hands, left the park, crossed the road, and went back to the house of Klausner. As I had told you, and I have given you in the PDF file also, you will notice that this Klausner was crazy, mad, eccentric, but at the same time, he was very devoted and dedicated to his work. Obviously, he loved to lead a lonely life. He did not have much friends except for Dr. Scott. Even his neighbors were suspicious about him, thinking that he was peculiar and crazy. But Dr. Scott was his only genuine friend who always humored Klausner, tried to please Klausner. Probably Dr. Scott was aware how dedicated and devoted Klausner was to his work. That is why, despite the anger and the irritation of Klausner, despite the threat of Klausner, he obliged whatever Klausner had told him to do, knowing whatever was said was silly, and in the end we see they are holding each other's hands and going back in a friendly, amiable manner. And the last thing, let me tell you before I end this story, we do not know whether the experiment was successful or not. Remember, the sounds through the machine were only heard by Klausner. Did he really hear those sounds, or was it his imagination? We don't know. And now the machine was totally crushed by the branch of the beech tree. So we will never know whether the experiment was a success or whether only it was a figment of imagination of Klausner that he had heard those horrible, terrible sounds. But one thing is clear, this story is not only about futuristic science, something that might happen in the future. It is most importantly an example of how dedication, devotion, how single-mindedness in what you are doing can lead to success. And the prime example of that in the story is Klausner. Thank you.